Some towns disappear because of war, money, or nature. But what if a town vanished completely? Not just from maps, but from memory. In the state of Wisconsin, people have searched for a small place called Doveland. They remember visiting it. Some say they lived there. A few even have old souvenirs like t-shirts and mugs. But there is one problem. Doveland cannot be found on any map. There are no photos of its streets, no birth records, no property files, and no history books mentions it. It is as if the town never existed at all. Still, hundreds of people say it was real, and the mystery is not why they forgot it. It is why everyone else did. Wisconsin is known for its quiet landscapes. Rolling hills, deep forests, and calm lakes stretch across the state. Small towns are scattered throughout the countryside, each with its own history and charm. Many of these communities are easy to miss. Some have just a few streets, a post office, and a diner. Others have faded away over time due to loss of jobs or changes in travel routes. But even the smallest towns usually leave something behind: a road sign, an old building, or a mention in a local paper. That is what makes Doveland so unusual. People describe it as a peaceful place with friendly neighbors and summer fairs. It was the kind of town where families waved from porches and children played in open fields. But when people try to find it, they come up with nothing. There are no records in the state's archive, no death certificates, no tax papers, no property maps. State workers have searched and local historians have checked and found no sign that Doveland ever existed. Some say the town was located near the center of the state. Others remember it being close to a lake, but no two stories ever point to the same spot. And yet, so many people are sure it was real. This mystery begins not with a discovery, but with a strange disappearance. This is not the first time people have spoken about a place disappearing. In the late 1500s, over 100 English settlers formed a colony on Roanoke Island off the coast of North Carolina. When a supply ship returned 3 years later, the entire village was gone. The homes were empty, and the only clue left behind was a single word carved into a post: Croatoan. No bodies were found, no records explained what happened. To this day, no one knows where the settlers went. Another case happened in Brazil in 1923. A small town called Rio Verde reportedly emptied overnight. Shops were left unlocked, meals were half finished, the people vanished, and no signs of violence were ever found. In 1930, a Canadian trapper claimed to have come across an Inuit village near Lake Anjikuni that had also disappeared. Campfires were still warm, graves had been dug up, but the entire community was gone without a trace. Stories like these are often told as folklore. They sound too strange to be real, but they all share one thing: something existed, and then it didn't. What makes Doveland different is the time in which it disappeared. These other towns vanished long ago when records were harder to keep, but Doveland was remembered by people who are still alive today. Many of them say they lived there in the 1960s, 70s, or even later. Some say they were children at the time. Others say their parents served in the military and were stationed there, and yet not a single document about the town can be found. There are no ruins, no photos of its streets, no mention in newspapers, maps, or official records. It is not just that Doveland disappeared. The most unsettling part of the Doveland mystery is not just its absence from maps, it is the people who remember it. Across internet forums, old blog posts, and message boards, dozens of users have shared memories of a small town named Doveland, Wisconsin. Most of these people are now in their 60s or 70s. They describe the town in calm, normal ways, like any other quiet Midwestern place. They talk about local shops, weekend fairs, and green neighborhoods. They say it was the kind of town where people left their doors unlocked, where teachers remembered your name, where families stayed for generations. Some of these people even posted photos of items they say they brought home, Doveland branded t-shirts, coffee mugs, and postcards. Most of the designs are simple: the town's name written in cursive, sometimes with a symbol like a bird or a barn. But when asked for more details, things begin to fall apart. No one can agree on where the town was. Some say it was near Lake Winnebago. Others claim it was closer to the Central Forest region. A few say it was west, near the border with Minnesota. Street names, most cannot remember. Landmarks, only vague ideas. Did they go to school there? Some say yes, but they have no yearbooks, no photos, and no classmate names to share. When this confusion was pointed out online, a few people became upset. They insisted that just because something is not written down does not mean it did not exist. One user said, "I went there every summer as a kid. My cousins lived there. We used to catch frogs by the lake and eat fried cheese curds from a food truck near the church. You can't make up memories like that." Others shared similar feelings, memories of family visits, school picnics, and small-town life, but none of them could offer hard proof. Still, their stories were strangely similar, and too many people said the same thing for it to be ignored. It is as if it was erased. The most unsettling part of the Doveland mystery is not just its absence from maps. It is the people who remember it. Across internet forums, old blog posts, and message boards, dozens of users have shared memories of a small town named Doveland, Wisconsin. Most of these people are now in their 60s or 70s. They describe the town in calm, normal ways, like any other quiet Midwestern place. They talk about local shops, weekend fairs, and green neighborhoods. They say it was the kind of town where people left their doors unlocked, where teachers remembered your name, where families stayed for generations. Some of these people even posted photos of items they say they brought home, Doveland branded. T-shirts, coffee mugs, and postcards. Most of the designs are simple. The town's name written in cursive, sometimes with a symbol like a bird or a barn. But when asked for more details, things begin to fall apart. No one can agree on where the town was. Some say it was near Lake Winnebago. Others claim it was closer to the Central Forest region. A few say it was west, near the border with Minnesota. Street names, most cannot remember. Landmarks, only vague ideas. Did they go to school there? Some say yes, but they have no yearbooks, no photos, and no classmate names to share. When this confusion was pointed out online, a few people became upset. They insisted that just because something is not written down does not mean it did not exist. One user said, "I went there every summer as a kid. My cousins lived there. We used to catch frogs by the lake and eat fried cheese curds from a food truck near the church." You can't make up memories like that. Others shared similar feelings, memories of family visits, school picnics, and small-town life, but none of them could offer hard proof. Still, their stories were strangely similar, and too many people said the same thing for it to be ignored. The story of Doveland did not begin with a discovery. It began with a search. In the late 2010s, internet users noticed something strange. When they typed Dove into Google, the autocomplete suggested a location called Dublin, Wisconsin. There was only one problem. Dublin, Wisconsin does not exist. This confused people. Google's autocomplete system usually works by showing popular or real searches. It takes thousands of similar entries to trigger a suggestion like that. Why would so many people be searching for a town that was not even real? At first, it seemed like a glitch. But then, something even stranger happened. People started sharing memories of a town called Doveland, not Dublin. They said maybe the name had been confused by accident, or maybe someone had misspelled it along the way, but they were sure it had once existed. Online forums filled with stories. One user remembered stopping in Doveland while traveling with family. Another said their uncle had been stationed there when he served in the military. A few claimed they had lived there as children and moved away before the town disappeared. People began searching maps, city records, and newspaper archives. Nothing showed up. No photos, no reports, no proof. Yet, more and more stories appeared. Many described the town the same way. A small, calm place with warm people and an old-fashioned charm. The deeper people looked, the more frustrating it became. No state employee could find Doveland in the archives. No historian had ever heard of it. Even local libraries had no record of the town. Despite that, a few photos started to appear. A coffee mug with Doveland, Wisconsin printed on it, a worn t-shirt with a dove and a sun, a blurry sign that could be a welcome board from a roadside. Some believed these items were faked. Others believed they were the last physical proof that the town had been real. Still, something felt off. If Doveland had truly existed, there should be more. More names, more maps, more memories, more buildings. Instead, it was as if something had been wiped clean. This was no longer just a strange story, it was a growing mystery, and one that would soon take a darker turn. As the stories of Doveland spread across the internet, something changed. People were no longer just remembering a quiet town. They were remembering something that had happened there, something that no one could fully explain. It began with a post on a small message board. A user wrote, "My father once lived in a place called Dublin, Wisconsin. I think it was really Doveland. He always said something bad happened there, something that made the town disappear." Born stunned inside orbit, post continued, "He told me it had something to do with the military. I think it was connected to a project called Sanguine. They were digging all over the land, then one day, it was gone. Just gone." The message sounded strange, but it got attention. Project Sanguine was real. It was a Cold War program designed by the US Navy. The plan was to build a massive underground communication system using extremely low-frequency LF radio waves. It was supposed to let the military send messages to submarines deep underwater. To make it work, they needed thousands of miles of buried cable and huge underground power stations. The project was never finished as planned. Instead, a smaller version called Project Elf was built near Clam Lake, Wisconsin. Some began to ask, what if the full project had started in Doveland? What if something went wrong? More posts appeared. One said, "My dad said they dug too far, too fast. He thought they hit something underground, something they were not ready for. Then they flooded the whole area to hide it." Another claimed, "I remember hearing sirens at night. I was a kid, but I knew something was wrong." The next week, we moved. We were told not to ask questions. Most of these stories came from people who said they were children at the time. Many had parents in the military. None had photos, none had addresses. But their stories shared a pattern. Sudden exits, no explanations, and families who never spoke about it again. Some said the town was evacuated. Others said it was destroyed in a flood caused by broken digging equipment. A few believed it was buried on purpose, that the military erased it from the land and from the record. There is a long history of secret towns in the United States. Los Alamos, New Mexico was created for the Manhattan Project, the building of the first atomic bomb. It did not appear on maps. It had no public address. Mail was sent to a post office box in Santa Fe. Families lived there for years without telling anyone. Mercury, Nevada was built for nuclear testing. At its peak, it had a hospital, a school, and even a bowling alley, but was completely closed to the public. These towns existed in secret because they had to. The government feared spies, mistakes were hidden, accidents were erased. If Doveland was built for Project Sanguine, and if that project failed, what would the government have done? Some believe there was a deadly accident, a collapse, an explosion, or a release of toxic gas. A few even believe something else was found, a buried structure, or a force the workers could not understand. These ideas sound extreme, but the evidence, or lack of it, is hard to explain. There are no ruins, no newspaper reports, no emergency logs, no satellite images from the 1990s that show a town where Doveland was said to be. That is what makes the story so chilling. It is not just that Doveland disappeared, it is that no one even remembers losing it. Some have compared it to a shared dream. Others believe it is a side effect of something deeper, a memory that was blocked or erased. If it was simply forgotten, why do the same pieces return in every story? Why do people remember the same small shops, the same peaceful lake, the same summer parades? One person wrote, "I do not care what anyone says. I walked those streets. I played in that park. Doveland was real. I just do not know where it went. Another said, I think it is buried. I think there are people who know and are just not saying anything. Maybe they cannot. And one final comment said only this: some things are not forgotten by accident. As the search for Doveland grew, so did the frustration. People began digging into state records, county files, and old newspapers. They contacted libraries, land offices, and local historians. Everyone was looking for something, anything, that would confirm the town's existence, but nothing ever came up. There are no birth certificates, marriage licenses, or death records linked to Doveland. There are no property deeds, school records, or town zoning maps. Even government workers from the Wisconsin State Archive confirmed they had never seen a single official document that mentioned Doveland. Some believed this was simply a mistake, a filing error. Maybe the town was absorbed into a nearby city and its name was dropped during the change. Others believed something more troubling. They said the records were not missing. They had been removed. The idea of data being erased is not new. Governments have lost or destroyed files before. During the Cold War, entire military projects were kept secret by redacting documents, burning blueprints, or locking reports under top-level clearance. In some cases, entire towns were left off maps, either to hide their purpose or to protect. What happened there? One of the most famous examples is Los Alamos, where families lived for years with no public recognition. If it could happen once, could it happen again? Some believe Doveland was part of a classified program like Project Sanguine. If there had been an accident, a flood, a cave-in, or exposure to something dangerous, the easiest solution would have been to cover it up. A few users online claim that even Google Earth shows nothing where the town was supposed to be. They say the roads do not match up or that the land looks strange, as if something had been altered or hidden under trees and brush. Another theory suggests that Doveland's records may have been digitally removed. In the internet age, it is possible to erase search data, clear databases, and block keywords from being found. If the town had become tied to a secret project, someone with power may have wiped it from the system. These claims are hard to prove, but they all point to the same question. If Doveland never existed, why are so many people convinced that it did? And if it did exist, who wanted it to disappear so completely? Even though Doveland has no official records, a few pieces of it still seem to remain. People across the internet have shared photographs of strange items. A coffee mug with Doveland, Wisconsin printed in faded red letters, a worn t-shirt with a dove and a sunrise, and a keychain shaped like a county map with Doveland labeled clearly on it. None of these objects have barcodes or manufacturing labels. Most are old, wrinkled, and show signs of age. Some people say they found them in old boxes. Others claim they belong to family members who once lived in the town. But where were these items made? Who printed them? When were they sold? No one has been able to find the answers. In most towns, souvenirs come from local printers or small businesses. A quick search usually leads to the shop that made them or the year they were designed. But with Doveland, the trail always stops. The shirts do not match any known brand. The mugs do not appear in any catalogue. Even more curious is that some people recall seeing road signs pointing toward Doveland on highways near central Wisconsin. A few say they remember passing the sign during family road trips in the 1970s and 1980s, but those signs are no longer there, and no transportation records show they ever were. Then there is the mystery of the city code. In one discussion, a user claimed to have seen an old real estate listing from a Wisconsin agency in the early 1990s. The paperwork listed the property as being in DVL, followed by a zip code that does not match any current town. That code does not appear in any state or federal system now. It is as if Doveland was once part of the grid and then quietly removed. These fragments may seem small, but to many they are important. They suggest that something once existed, something people could touch, wear, or remember. And if even one of these items is real, then Doveland was too. As more people searched for answers, something strange began to happen. Some who had once claimed to remember Doveland began to change their stories. A few said they were unsure. Others admitted they might have confused it with another town. Some even deleted their comments or accounts entirely. It was as if they no longer wanted to talk about it. When asked why, one person replied, "I thought I remembered, but now I don't know. Maybe I made it up." But can so many people all misremember the same place? Psychologists say memory is not perfect. It can change over time. But what made Doveland unusual was the consistency of the details people gave before they began to doubt themselves. The same quiet streets, the same friendly people, the same type of souvenirs. Then suddenly, silence. Some believe this silence is not natural. They think it is the result of pressure, from friends, from officials, or from something harder to name. A few have suggested that people were told to forget, or that their memories were clouded by something deeper, like trauma or manipulation. There are also stories of people who remember asking their parents about Doveland, only to receive strange answers or complete denial. One user said, "My mother got nervous when I brought it up. She told me not to mention it again." This pattern repeats across many posts. Someone remembers the town, then they doubt it, then they stop speaking altogether. It is not just that. Doveland vanished from paper. It also seems to be fading from the minds of those who once walked its streets. Or worse, something or someone is helping it disappear. Others offer a more grounded explanation. Doveland was confused with another town. There are many small towns in Wisconsin with names like Dover, Loveland, and Cleveland. A simple mistake, a misheard name, a typo in an old postcard could have started the confusion. If someone's family used to live in a place called Loveland, Colorado, for example, the name might have mixed in their mind with Wisconsin towns they visited. Over time, Doveland becomes the label. There is also the idea that Doveland was a nickname or local name for a part of another town, like a neighborhood or district that never had official status. Small areas are often called things like the Flats, Hilltown, or Riverbend. These names are real to locals but do not appear on maps or in records. If a place called Doveland existed in this way, and it was later renamed or absorbed, it might disappear from formal documents while still living on in memory. Another possibility is that Doveland was planned but never built. Sometimes developers or government offices create proposals for new towns or subdivisions. These plans include street names, zip codes, and building designs. But if the project is cancelled, the name might vanish before anything is built. However, a few signs, promotional materials, or souvenirs may have already been printed. People might have seen those items and assumed the town was real. Over time, the name spreads even though the town never opened its doors. A final theory is that Doveland was briefly real but too small to leave a trace. It could have been a temporary settlement like a seasonal camp, a work town, or a military outpost. These places often exist for only a short time. If the population is low and the project fails or moves, there may be no reason to keep detailed records. But even then, some trace should remain. Land records, satellite photos, local memories. That is what still troubles believers, because Doveland is not just missing, it is missing in a way that feels too perfect. No typos, no leftover signs, no ruins, just memories, silence, and a name that leads nowhere. When logic fails to explain something, the mind often wanders into stranger territory. Some believe that Doveland did not disappear in a normal way. It did not fade or get renamed. It did not collapse or flood. It slipped. One theory suggests that Doveland experienced a time slip or dimensional rift, a rare event where part of the world moves out of sync with reality. According to this idea, the town still exists, just not in this version of our world. Maybe it slid into another layer of time. Maybe it now exists in a parallel dimension. This could explain why some people remember it clearly while others do not. Perhaps only those who were there, or near the rift, kept the memory. Everyone else sees an empty forest or a blank map. Another theory is the simulation hypothesis. This idea suggests that reality itself may be artificial, like a digital program or a giant computer simulation. If that were true, then towns, people, and events could be added or deleted at will. A glitch in the system might cause an entire town to vanish without leaving physical evidence. Some think Doveland could be one of those glitches. Maybe it was a test area, maybe something went wrong with its code. In a simulation, even people's memories could be adjusted, except for a few who slipped through the cracks. Then there are those who believe Doveland was erased on purpose, not by human, but by something watching from outside our world. This belief connects to stories of underground structures, UFO bases, and secret projects buried deep beneath the United States. Some say that military digging during Project Sanguine may have disturbed something ancient or alien. Could Doveland have been built over something the government was not supposed to find? If a secret base or force was uncovered, removing the town would be a way to contain it and to keep the public from asking too many questions. These theories may sound like science fiction. They are hard to prove and easy to doubt, but they all have one thing in common. They explain why Doveland disappeared completely, not just in body, but in memory. And in a world where people forget places they once called home, maybe the truth is stranger than anyone expected. Not all theories about Doveland involve aliens or time shift. Some focus on something much more human, a cover-up. One of the most discussed ideas is that Doveland was a military town, created during the Cold War as part of Project Sanguine. According to online accounts, it may have housed the families of workers and soldiers involved in the massive underground communication project. Project Sanguine was real. Its goal was to lay thousands of miles of wire under Wisconsin's bedrock to send signals to nuclear submarines. The work would have required heavy digging, deep shafts, and serious risk. If something had gone wrong, a tunnel collapse, a toxic spill, or an underground explosion, the military may have responded not with rescue, but with removal. Two separate online posts mention a flood or a digging accident that destroyed the town. If true, this could explain why nothing remained. Buildings washed away, records destroyed, survivors relocated. And if the incident was serious enough, the government would have had every reason to keep it secret. There is historical precedent for this. In 1958, a US bomber dropped a hydrogen bomb near Tybee Island, Georgia, after a mid-air collision. The public was not informed for decades. Other secret deaths from aircraft testing were quietly blamed on training accidents, with families never told the truth. If something terrible happened in Doveland, especially to military families, it may have been buried under national security laws, hidden behind sealed documents, and forgotten by design. Some believe the removal went further. They think Doveland was not just covered up physically, but also digitally erased, scrubbed from federal databases, maps, and internet records. A few even claim that old satellite photos were altered, replacing streets and homes with trees and fields. Others push this theory further, connecting it to the rise of mind control experiments and psychological operations in the mid-20th century. Could the people who lived there have been subjects in a secret program? If so, removing all traces of the town would be a way to hide the evidence. This could explain why so many former residents express confusion, guilt, or fear when talking about Doveland. Not only did they lose their home, they may have been forced to forget why. It is a theory without proof, but in a mystery like this, lack of proof may be the strongest clue of all. Doveland, Wisconsin does not appear in any official record. It has no mayor, no borders, no history book entries, no maps lead to it, no signs point its way, and yet people remember it. They remember quiet streets and warm summers. They remember the name, the feeling, the place. They are not trying to prove something wild. Most just want to understand how a town that felt so real could disappear so completely. Some say it was a government town, erased after a secret failure. Others believe it slipped through time. A few are sure it never existed at all, just a shared illusion created by memory and the internet. But even the most skeptical minds struggle with one question. How can so many people forget the same thing together? Maybe Doveland was a place, maybe it was a name, maybe it was an idea planted in just the right way to grow roots in people's minds. Whatever the truth is, one thing remains certain. A town may vanish from maps, but memories are harder to erase.